In order to insert data into the SQL Server database using C# ASP.NET, first you need to connect to the database. So double click on web.config file, and in the configuration tag add a tag that is connection string, and in the connection string add a tag that is add, then name. You can give any name of your choice. I will give here data connection. After this connection string, now click on view, then click on server explorer, then right click on data connection, then click on add connection, and click on sense. Make sure you select Microsoft SQL Server or SQL Server. And if you are using free version, that is Microsoft SQL Express, then type /SQL Express and select the database. And if you are using full version, then simply select the drop down and select the SQL Server Database and select authentication to SQL Server Authentication and provide the username and password of the SQL Server. After this, select the database. My database is hospital, and click on test connection. Connection successful, click OK, then click OK. Then right click on the connection, data connection, then click on properties, then click on connection string, Ctrl A, Ctrl C, copy it and paste it over this connection string. Over here there is connection string. And after this, change this password, only this password, with the password of your SQL Server. That is admin@123. That is the password of my SQL Server. Then and save it. I have already designed my web form. Now let's try to insert data into the SQL Server database. Click on the text box of the ID and type F4, and I have changed this ID to TB_ID. In the same way, text box of name, I have changed it TB_name. In the same way, text box of address also TB_address. Now double click on the save button. First, let's give some namespaces. So scroll onto the top and type using system.data.sql client or SQL client. After this, using system.configuration. These two namespaces is used for connecting SQL Server database. So double click onto the save button again, and I will paste the code for inserting data into the database. In the first line of my code, I have named my SQL connection as con. In this, I have to change something, so double click on the web.config file and copy this connection string name, that is data connection, and paste it over the double quote. So the first line of my code is for connecting SQL Server database. Now the second line. Let's first see my table. My table is registration and its field is ID, name and address. So I have named my SQL command as cmd, and my command is insert into registration, that is to insert data into this table registration, and its field is ID, name and address, and its value will be taken from this tbid, tbname and tbaddress. That is the name of this text box, that is tbid and tbname and tbaddress. That is the name of this text box. So the value will be taken from this text box tbid, tbname and tbaddress, and my connection is con. I have used here try and catch so that when SQL Server connects and if there is any error, then the website won't crash. So I have used here try and catch. So con.open means connection will be open, that is SQL Server connection will be open. cmd means SQL command will be executed, and if it's successful, then we will display save successful on this lb underscore text, that is the name of this label, that is lb underscore display, that is the name of this label. And if the insertion of data into the SQL Server is successful, then it will display save successful. And connection dot con that is con dot close means SQL Server connection will be closed. And this is my full code. Let's check whether it is successful or not. Now let's click on the save button. It is successful. Now let's check the table. So open the table. So the data is inserted into the SQL Server database.